Do you struggle with the top tier grind with today's sponsor, 3GE for War Thunder? You might be able to make it a little bit easier. All you need to do is click the link in the description, download the app, complete some simple tasks, and you'll get some small amounts of golden eagles. Now if you sign up with my promo code EPGEK, not only will you get 10 GE upon signing in, but every GE that you guys earn, I will get as well, that I will be able to give away again in huge batches a few times every year. Welcome back to the plane that the Chinese tech tree didn't really need. It's the Mirage 2000 that you will also find in the French tech tree. It's the HMD wielding, Mika slinging, Magic 2 having Dorito that you've probably already played before. Now if you haven't, let me run it down for you. It's pretty straightforward. The flight performance is great, it's fast, acceleration is good, turns extremely well. Speed bleed is rather high though, so be careful that you don't end up stalling out in front of people. The Mika is a pretty short range missile, just like with the Su-27. However, unlike with the Su-27, this thing is actually good at close range fighting. And the main strength here is the HMD with the Mika combo. If you get them in that bore sight, they're probably dead if they are close. You can't really dodge this missile. It will basically always have the ability to pull in. And just the ability to switch from offense to defense constantly makes this thing an absolute menace to engage. It's extremely frustrating to deal with because it's basically always on the defensive while still being able to notch your missiles. Now, I'm gonna be real with you people. I had a terrible time in this thing, and it's not because of the plane. I was just completely out of it. And you can tell by the fact I didn't buy the qualification. I'm running on a non-expert crew here, which I basically never do. I didn't even put my decal on the wing. I was just completely out of it, and you can see in today's video that I'm also pretty sluggish. I miss pressing stuff, I'm rolling into the wrong direction, stuff like that. So, you know, just bear with me for a second. Even though I had a terrible time, this plane is still fantastic. I can tell when it's me and not the vehicle, and this time it was definitely me. There's really nothing I don't like about this plane, other than the fact it has DEFAs. The guns here leave a little bit to be desired. They're not very good, they're relatively low velocity, they have a lot of drag, they're pretty inaccurate, not a lot of volume of fire, and overall, probably the worst gun that you will find at top tier. The Magic 2s, you only have 2 of them, which is a bit of a drawback, but having 6 Michaels makes up for it tenfold. Especially on maps like these, where you have terrain and you can actually let people come to you. You want to be a little bit more defensive, because, well, you can't outrange anyone. Let them come to you, draw them in, and if they get within your bore sight, they're probably going to be dying, and you have a good chance that you can actually defend the missile, as long as you're not too fast. This thing does lock up a decent amount, and when you try to notch at Mach 1.2, especially at altitude, you just you fly straight and you eat the missile. So try to sit at around Mach, and you'll find that even the group fights with more than 1, sometimes 2, and you can even hold your own against 3 people at once on maps like these, because you can just sling out missiles while defending. Now you don't have the most amount of missiles, which is really the only other drawback of this thing, but 6 is more than enough, so I don't think I can actually call that a massive one. The fuel burn here is also pretty good. It doesn't really consume that much, so I just kind of run 20 to 24 minutes depending on the map. Michael off bore, go into the terrain, boom, he's dead, and it really is just that easy. If you're not getting run down, because the teams are pretty bad. I've had a pretty terrible time with the teams, together with the fact that I wasn't really playing my best. You know, having the carry when you're not playing well is just absolutely abysmal dog shit, and it doesn't help that I had some of the unluckiest moments as well. More of that in a little bit. Now we have an Su-34 coming over the mountain, as well as an F-15, so I'm gonna try to shoot these missiles over the ridgeline here as I go into the defensive posture. Shoot the missile off, shoot the second missile off, try to arc it over the mountain, we go into the terrain, boom, that is notched, and that is the Su-34 dead. And now there's only one guy left, it's an F-15, we are on about 6.5 minutes of fuel. The fuel burn isn't that bad, so we don't really have to worry about it too much. It is at the end of the day not a tornado. We turn in, we use the terrain, don't have the notch, don't have the multipad if the enemy can't see you. So we pitch on over and we just instantly get the shot on him. It's an F-15 and it's not an A variant, and therefore we basically just get the shot almost instantaneously. Gun side, yeah, just absolutely screwing me over. And he does the wrong thing. Instead of going into raid, he just kind of starts turning with me. We get the shot here, and luckily we have a teammate to back us up. We then get engaged by an F-14 from our rear. We go into a bit of a notch angle here, and I'm just trying to get the HMD on. The second we lock on, we should be able to shoot it off. There we go. It's in the bore side. Get it a little bit closer. He isn't firing just yet, so I'm able to just, you know, the closer the missile, the higher the chance of it hitting. Boom, there goes the F-16. And the F-14 is still chasing us down. I'm not exactly sure where he is. I do have a rough idea. He's relatively close. He's on our 6, and he's slightly on our left. There he goes. There he is. Now, we are going to be able to outrun him, but running our game doesn't get us anything. We actually need to start working if we want to pull this game out of the gutter, because our team is just completely imploding in the background, and I need to make something work. I got pushed into the defense at the start here. That's why I'm so out of position. And for now, I'm just trying to pull this F-14 away a little bit, try to get some separation. We start dropping the throttle so I can actually turn in a little. And he is multi-pathing, so I'm not sure if I can shoot the missile at him right here. I'm gonna try it anyway, because he is pulling off the deck a little bit, so I decided to shoot it at him. I'm not able to go into the multi-path, and we lose control because I don't have my goddamn qualification. And this really almost got me killed if he had shot an IR missile there. Luckily, we're able to get out of his nose, dodge his guns, and we should be able to roll in here. We are going a little bit slower now. We are more maneuverable, especially if he doesn't fold his wings out. And we end up directly behind him. The issue is F-16 coming in. We switch targets. Mika out. Go into the notch in case he starts shooting, but he isn't. Switch targets with the Magic 2. And that is going to be a nice little 2-piece. Now, the entire enemy team is about to come in here. So I'm going to try to get over there to the cocky pillars to find a little bit of cover. We have 2 Michaels left and 1 Magic. He seems to be completely dead in the water. So I'm just going to try to speed on over to the right side of the map. Or the left side rather. I want to go to the right after I'm in here, because I just want to use this terrain as a little bit of cover. Now there are some missiles coming in, and you can tell that they are behind the mountain. So I thought, well, we should be okay. There's another one coming off a little bit further away. So we shoot these missiles off in the head-on, and we get hit by one. And then we get hit through the mountain as we collect 2 more kills. We then, of course, frisbee our way back to Narnia and, you know, have a nice little cup of tea on the way home. But we went to sensor view and we saw that the first missile that narrowly dodged the pillar actually curved around it. I'm not sure if that's something that R-77s actually do. And then the second one, it actually flew through the pillar. Thank you, Gaijin. Very cool. Now, I know that some of these pillars are hollow and missiles can fly straight through them, but I never know which is which, and I never know what portion of what pillar can be flown through. So that kind of fucked me over there, but at the end of the day, I mean, I was dead anyway. I only had like 1 missile left at the end. I had like 5 enemies bum rushing me, so I just decided to end my life right there so that the enemy can win for once as well. Don't check my stats. I only have 1 loss on my entire account. Really, guys, trust me. So after shooting off our missiles in the head-on here with the Mika, this was like, I think, the 2nd or the 3rd game. And I was trying to fly it a little bit more conservatively, trying to hold back a little bit, trying to maintain range. I'm basically flying it like an F-15E. This works somewhat, but you just have very little battle presence. And you can have so much of that in this plane. It is so good at maintaining control that this is not the way you should play it. But you know, it is applicable for basically every plane, and you can just kind of fly it like a spider, and if anything gets into your web, you just kind of hammer them out of the air. And I mean, this thing can really do whatever the hell you want. It's not really bound by a certain playstyle. The only thing that you have to just keep in mind that your missiles don't have the most amount of range, and you have to lure people into the fight. So while this necessarily isn't a wrong way to play it, you can just have much more effect on the overall battle if you play it a little bit closer to the enemy. Now, be careful that you don't get swamped, but at the same time, if you hang back, you don't affect the battle as much, and there's a likelihood that you will get swamped in the end anyway, because your team just imploded. We lose control yet again, because of course the qualification is pretty important, and then we go back into the terrain. We kind of sneak up on this JS-39, get a little bit closer, rear aspect shot, even if he flares it. I mean, you're gonna have to flare properly. If you want to know how to flare properly, check the guide in the description. We take the JS-39 out of the air, and then we dive back into the terrain. Upon looking around for a little while, like 4 minutes I think, we find the F-15 taking off from his runway. We pitch up directly underneath him, and same story here. Even if he does see it, even if he manages to flare this, he's dead. The position and the speed that I carry here is just done deal for him. And we send him back to the Shadow Realm. F-15 comes in, we notch his missiles. We turn back out. Missile goes into the multipad, a little bit unlucky, and we have to merge with him. Now we actually have the qualification this time around, which is why I'm not instantly passing out. And we are going a little bit slower than him, so all we need to do is dodge his guns just once. Didn't even get the shot. And all we need to do now is make sure that we don't get third party, because this F-15C is dead as hell. Now we are at 2 kilometers, which means that I don't have the lift there to get the shot, but we do have the lift to get that HMD shot off in a little bit of an off-ball. F-15 goes down in a second, we notch his missile, we line up our plane for the Magic 2, easily pulls in, and we get ourselves a nice little double. The last game here isn't as flashy, but it is like the average experience that you can expect of this thing when you try to fly it a little bit more aggressive at the start. Now when you try to fly it a little bit more aggressive, expect more heat, and more heat means more Mika victims, of course. Just be careful that you don't get run down by 6 people at once, because it is not a fun experience. At the start here, I still like to use TWS just so I can like actually find the enemies, because with the HMD, of course, you need to roughly know where they are so you can start locking onto them. So we just kind of TWS lock them, shoot off 2 Michaels, and we just turn out. And in this case, they hit nothing. And that happens quite often. The missiles are a little bit slower. They have quite a bit of time to react. And even if it isn't a notch, keep in mind, in order to be maneuverable, a thrust vectoring missile actually needs thrust. And without fuel, these missiles aren't nearly that scary. So even though they might have a decent amount of range, they are pretty easy to defeat once they actually burn out. They also lose a lot of speed very quickly. So try to not shoot them like I am in this game. Again, this was one of my earlier games and I was just trying to get some longer range kills. 14 kilometers is possible, but they do have plenty of time to react. Ideally, personally, I try to just use them like within 10 kilometers. Preferably sometimes even slower, but it depends on the situation, and I don't want you guys to try to shoot these things off at 5 kilometers where you don't have the time anymore to actually turn out. A lot of the guys that fly directly at you, they will maintain to fly directly at you. So if you're already kind of like positioned well, where they are at your 90 degree, you're already notching them, you kind of just pull in for half a second, you HMD slave it, shoot the missile off, you get a kill, and you will be defeating that missile relatively quickly. Just be careful to not shoot these missiles outside of the outer ring, because then they mostly just go apeshit. Make the missile fly into the multipad, we merge with the F-15, we slow down a little bit, and again, I'm not sure why F-15s try to force this kind of fight here. I'm slower than you and I turn better, so this is just the freest kill in the world. Zhao Medong goes down and we go back into the terrain. Now we only have 2 Michaels left and 1 Magic. I'm gonna abstain myself from shooting these at long range. The 2 Michaels is just the freest kill in the world for me. So we take down the F-15 and we fly towards the blob in the middle. Now we only have 2 Michaels left. We have 1 Magic, but the Michaels here are gonna be the main thing. We're gonna use these defensively if people come to us. Otherwise, we're just gonna abstain ourselves from using them at long range because it's November in the end. So we're flying a little bit higher now. We're gonna try to get some altitude, because I'm not scared of altitude in this thing at all. It's very easy to dodge these missiles by simply turning out. He comes in at us, shoots a missile at us, we notch out, we defeat the missile, and I thought that Mika was gonna hit him. He also notched it too. Or he made it fly into the multipad. I'm not entirely sure because I can't see anything. We're then passing out because again we don't have the qualification. And I'm not entirely sure where the F-16 is. But in the front of us, no one is really pressuring us. So the second that F-16 gets spotted, and I can tell he wants to tango with me, I'm gonna pitch in here. He's not going super fast. I'm not entirely sure what he is trying to do. I'm just gonna be chasing him. I'm in a good position here. I don't really have to worry about anything. He goes into a bit of an odd angle here. I could have Magic 2'd him, but I waited a little bit too long. Finished the controls. As I said, I was super sluggish. And we're just kind of gonna throttle drop behind him. And the F-16 does the same thing as everyone, and they just pull into your guns. Now we managed to miss him here. He tries to go into a bit of a raid, but he's constantly cutting the afterburner. I'm not sure what these people are doing. And that's gonna be a wrap. F-16 directly in the gun side. He goes back to the hangar, and I'll see you all after the weekend.